if you have not heard Bill Maher's recap of his dinner with Donald Trump, then you are missing out, but we're going to catch you up. It was, I think he did like a 13-minute monologue roughly about their visit. And we have a lot of clips to share, real quick ones of just the best parts, I think. First of all, he was talking about how he's just a guy with absolutely no power whatsoever. But the reason he went is because he does feel he represents a certain sect of people. Here he is about that.
I have no power. I'm a fucking comedian, and he's the most powerful leader in the world. I'm not the leader of anything, except maybe a contingent of centrist-minded people who think there's got to be a better way of running this country than hating each other every minute.
Yeah. It's true.
I think he does represent that group of people. He does.
Yeah, we're old enough to remember when people did that every single day. You know, people were friends with people with whom they disagreed, and we had family that we disagreed with, and we were still able to sit down at a dinner table together and hang out. We were able to go and do things with these people, and we are way divided now. It is so different now. And I think that he recognizes that. We recognize that. There's a lot of people in our generation that recognize that. And it drives them a little crazy. You know?
Yeah, absolutely agree. He also got like the full White House experience. He got the tour, you know, basically of the whole entire residence. And that included that little secret room that's kind of off of the Oval, which is where Bill Clinton and Monica did the things.
I love what he calls it. I just love it.
Well, I don't even know if I have that, but he does call it the blowjob room.
He calls it that a lot. It's so funny.
He does. He does. But one of the things that it's used for now, or maybe the only thing it's used for now, is merch. That's where they keep all the Trump merch.
Isn't that great? I love that. It's been replaced with merch.
Right. And so, of course, Trump offered him some, and here's how that went.
And he gave me a bunch of hats, but he didn't ask me to take a picture in one, which I appreciated. The guy I met is not the person who the night before the dinner shit-tweeted a bunch of nasty crap about how he thought this dinner was a bad idea and what a deranged asshole I was. I read it and thought, oh, what a lovely way to welcome someone to your house.
I mean, fair point.
Well, he has been a jerk to him.
Yeah, they've been jerks to each other, for real.
Right. They've been jerks to each other. So I wouldn't expect, you know, Trump to be all ass kissy. So there's that. Yeah.
And I think Trump wanted to maintain, you know, he's top dog in this scenario, and he's
the alpha.
He's going to see, he's the alpha, and he's going to see how it goes, but he doesn't particularly like the idea. But Trump is, as Bill points out several times, as you'll hear, his public persona is different than how he is in private. Bill Maher, I guess, stressed out a little bit about what he was going to wear.
But when I got there, that guy wasn't living there. Now, does Trump want respect? Of course. Who doesn't? My friend said to me, what are you going to wear to the White House? I said, I don't know, but I'm not going to dress like Zelensky. I'll tell you that.
And lest you think that it was all kind of snarky, it wasn't. Bill was very honest about his impressions of Donald Trump and the kindness that Donald Trump showed him. He also talked about how Donald Trump actually has a lot more self-awareness than he expected. Here he is about that.
He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public. Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists, because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy. I never felt I had to walk on eggshells around him. And honestly, I voted for Clinton and Obama, but I would never feel comfortable talking to them the way I was able to talk with Donald Trump. That's just how it went down. Make of it what you will.
So he got home later that night, and you know, it was that same night that he got home, and then he turned on the television and said this was the most surreal part of the experience.
The most surreal part of the whole night was when I got home. I flew back right after the dinner, and I'm in bed watching 60 Minutes from the night before, and there's Trump in one of their stories, standing at a podium in a room that looked to me like one of the rooms and places we'd just been in, and he's ranting, disgusting, you're a terrible person, and I'm like, who's that guy? What happened to Glinda the Good Witch?
I did love that he called him Glinda the Good Witch.
Yeah, I mean, I think he met the actual man and not
Yeah.
who the media wants you to see, right? I mean, I and I don't have a problem with that. A lot of people are really mad because they think, oh, he's two different people. What do you expect? I mean, at this point, the left has made him into a caricature of a person. The left has done this. And so he kind of has to protect himself at this point. He has to have like his public persona and his personal persona because they've tried to destroy him. They've tried to kill him. And so what do you expect him to do? He has to protect himself. He has to have something that's just his own. And then he has a very distinct number of people personally that surround him. And he doesn't, I think he lets people in like Bill Maher. And I think it's very gracious of him to do that, especially after everything that he's been through. And he is himself, but he does it probably very cautiously.
Yeah, I think that's true. I do wish that he was able to show that softer side of himself to more people, because I feel like there's no negative from that. Like the more people that realize, wow, he's actually a really decent man, I think that would be great. You know what I mean? All I can tell you is that if you need to treat your dog to something delicious and amazingly healthy for them, you should consider this amazing product, Rough Greens, from naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, who has put together the best nutritional supplement for dogs ever. It's got everything they need to bring their dry, dead kibble to life. It's a green powder. You sprinkle it right on their kibble and they love it. They absolutely devour it. And they get to a point where they won't eat unless you do the sprinkling because they love it that much. And it helps transform their health in a really natural way. So it takes care of things like helping their coats, their breath, their activity level, their energy, and also just all of their innards, right? Like any health supplement for you helps to keep your body healthy. The same is true about Rough Greens for dogs and cats. They also have Meow Greens for cats. And you can try a free Jumpstart bag, whether it's for your cat or for your dog. You just cover shipping when you visit roughchicks.com. It's RUFF chicks.com and you use code CHICKS. Roughchicks.com. I remember producer Rob back in the radio days. He actually had to sit down with Donald Trump, which he never let us forget about. He talked about it constantly.
Every single day. Right.
But that was one of the big takeaways, is that he is unlike his public persona. Like he is so different. When you meet him in person, one-on-one, he's just softer and kinder and just not at all like what you see on the big screen, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And he's also not crazy, as some people think. And that is what Bill Maher thought going into this. But here's what he said about that.
And why can't we get the guy I met to be the public guy? And I'm not saying it's our responsibility to do that. It's not. I'm just reporting exactly what I saw over 2.5 hours. I went into the mine, and that's what's down there. A crazy person doesn't live in the White House. A person who plays a crazy person on TV a lot lives there, which I know is fucked up. It's just not as fucked up as I thought it was. At one point.
Yeah, but how effed up is it for him to be the guy who is, I gotta think of a nice way to say this, not swinging as you know what around, but being an alpha and going out there and being mean and kicking ass and taking names. I mean, that's what we want. You want somebody who's out there who can be kind of mean. You want that. I want that. I want him to be that way. I don't want him to be grandpa all the time. I want him to be the freaking president. I want him to be the CEO. I want him to be a hard ass. That's what I want him to be. And then behind closed doors, he can be grandpa. I'm sure listen, I have no doubt that he's a lovely man, that he's sweet and kind and loving and generous and funny and all of those things. It's just that there's a time and a place for that. And he understands that. That's why he is as successful as he is because he understands the time and a place for those things. And when he is a bulldog, he knows he needs to be a bulldog at certain times. And that's why he's successful. That's why he's president. That's why you can't be soft all the time. You just can't.
Well, and there was, I guess, one point where Bill was asking him or saying to him, you're scaring people. Like, do you really want to do that? And I'm going to let that clip play with just the last two because they're all so short. So essentially he's going to ask about, or he's going to suggest that Trump is scaring people. And does he want to change that? But then he also I can't read my own writing. Doesn't. Oh, he also makes the point again about why about the fact that he just doesn't understand why there's these two personas, which means that he needs to listen to you on our show. But here are the last 3 clips just smooshed together.
I said to him, "You're scaring people. Do you really want to be scaring your own citizens so much?" And I know now you're all saying, "And what did he say to that?" Honestly, I don't remember. But it wasn't, "Okay, I'll stop." So MAGA fans, don't worry. Your boy gave me nothing. Just hats. Hats and a very generous amount of time and a willingness to listen and accept me as a possible friend, even though I'm not MAGA, which was the point of the dinner. And we agreed. The people who don't even want us to talk, we don't like you. Trump was gracious and measured, and why he isn't that in other settings, I don't know, and I can't answer, and it's not my place to answer. I'm just telling you what I saw, and I wasn't high.
I kind of love that. He doesn't scare me. Strong men don't scare me. I think strong men scare weak people.
Mm.
And I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but I think that that's just the truth. I think strong men like Trump scare weak people. And I think there are a lot of weak people in this country. I just do.
Well, and people who are just hell-bent on hating him no matter what they learn
Right.
about him, you know, that you're never going to change the minds of some people. Bill Maher has always had an element of open-mindedness, especially when it comes to the woke stuff, to Islam. There's a lot of issues on which we agree with him.
Right.
Mostly not, but there are some, which shows that he does have an open mind. So he really was probably the right person
Totally.
to do this with. You know what I mean?
So too. It's nice to see them sit down and that is
for sure.
together and have a conversation. That's how it used to be. And honestly, that is it was something that's how our country should be.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it that way. It's how we should be more. But I think people are so rabid now because again, I think there are a lot of weak people in our country that are just incapable of doing what Bill Maher did. So, I mean, more power to Bill Maher for sitting down and being able to look at this objectively and say the things objectively. So, I mean, I give him kudos for that. And I give Trump many props for inviting him to the sacred White House, you know? So good for him. Good for both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it was nothing. I don't think it was anything but a positive for sure. Dana White was also there and he was on with, I think, Lara Trump to give his assessment of how it went down. Here he is.
Bill Maher walks into the Oval Office and he's like, "There's no way in hell I was showing up without a suit on." And I didn't have a suit on. And Bill Maher looks at me and he goes, "This is definitely from the Zelensky collection."
Oh my, that's a pretty good start. That's a good
start.
way to start.
It was hilarious. It was funny. It was fun. There was a lot of really good and smart conversation that went back and forth between him and the president. And Kid Rock and I just sort of sat there and let those two have their time together. Wow. It was awesome.
And that's nice. I think that's really nice.
That's super cool.